Hello. I hope you're well. I really do. Because if you're not, then chances are the NHS won't be able to look after you as well as it should. And that's wrong. Because the Labour Party created the NHS 70 years ago on the founding principles of it being comprehensive, universal, and free. The NHS was created to care for us. But now, the NHS needs our care. Today, there are almost 4 million people on waiting lists for treatment. 1 in 4 of us have to wait a week to see a GP. And every day, thousands of us have to wait over 4 hours in A&E. Our hospitals are understaffed, and the staff who are so utterly dedicated to our well-being are overworked and woefully underpaid. Last year, in England alone, the NHS was £2.45 billion in deficit, while the Tory government wasted £3 billion in their top-down reorganisation. And that's why, when politicians argued about whether we should be in the EU or not, they used something that they knew we all care about. They used the NHS that is desperately in need of funding. So yeah, they stood in front of their big bus and promised £350 million a week. Money they said we'd save. Money they promised would save our NHS. And that's brilliant, because we all like promises, but no one likes it when they're broken. Do you really believe a Conservative government will honour that promise? It's hard to. Why? Because in their last budget there wasn't a penny of extra funding for the NHS or for social care. No, not a single penny. Still believe the promise of £350 million a week? Well, look at it this way. Right now, the Conservatives are actually planning £22 billion. Yes, £22 billion worth of what they like to call efficiency savings. But the rest of us would call them cuts. Cuts to nurse training. Cuts and more closures of A&E departments, maternity units and other services, and cuts to social care. Cuts that will continue to prove the Conservatives' reckless neglect of our NHS. So now do you believe they'll honour the promise of that £350 million? No, neither do I. The founding principles of the NHS are being broken. And I believe that the promise of £350 million a week to save it will also be broken. I wish I could trust a Conservative government to support the NHS, but I can't. That's why the Labour Party is demanding a commitment, a clear and firm commitment from the Conservative government that they will stop their constant neglect of the NHS and provide the level of funding that it so desperately needs. And whether the Conservatives are prepared to or not, the Labour Party is. Because Labour created the NHS to care for us all, and now it's time that we all cared for the NHS. The NHS needs extra investment, so Labour will make sure that it gets it. And yes, that's a promise.